This is my living room wall with 3 boxes of green tape. The middle one looks a lot like an aquarium. I'm Fear, and this is Fear the Reefer. Hi everyone and welcome to my channel, Fear the Reefer. I'm Fear. I've been in the reefing hobby for about 6 years now, and I finally made the plunge and purchased my big dream tank, the Waterbox 220.6. It's about 220 gallons, 6 feet long, 2 feet deep, 2 feet tall. I know there are a lot of really amazing built-in custom aquariums. For my purposes, I decided to go for more off-the-shelf, humongous aquarium so I can have a dream tank of my own, but something that is freestanding and I could take with me if and when I do move. I was tied between Waterbox aquariums, Red Sea aquariums, and Planet aquariums. They're all terrific tanks. They all have their pros and cons. I took out Planet aquariums from the equation because I wanted a traditional, at least 2 feet deep aquarium. Once you get a sand bed in there, a 2-foot aquarium is really only 22 inches deep, if not even shallower. You have an inch or two up from the top, so even a 24-inch deep tank, you really only have 20 inches of swim water. For some reason, Planet aquariums are shallower than that, so I really only wind up having about 16 inches of swim space, and I didn't really want to have that. Then there are the Red Sea tanks. Beautiful tanks. I have one myself. It's the E260. I converted mine into a traditional in-cabinet sump. It's a beautiful aquarium. The glass is high quality. The silicone seals are terrific, but honestly, I already have one of those. Also, they had all those problems with the 750 XXLs in 2019, all the front panel blowouts, water all over the floor. They have fixed them. They now changed the stand design to be able to hold all that weight. But the fact that so many products went out the door without that being properly checked gave me pause for concern. At the end of the day, I went with Waterbox aquariums for a couple of reasons. Those are actually just slightly bigger than the Red Seas. Not that it matters, but slightly bigger. Same price point, and everything that I've heard about them is terrific. Also, I kind of like their prefab plumbing setup better. I'm definitely gonna do some kind of automated filter sock. I currently have the Teeling Compact roller mat, which works pretty well, but it's kind of a pain in the ass to plumb. It takes up a big footprint, and I couldn't really figure out a way, at least in my current configuration, for both the main overflow and the backup overflow to both go into the roller mat. So with Waterbox's placement of where the filter socks are, I feel like I can more easily implement using the Clarity 5000 or the Clear 7 filter, and that's mostly just because of where the plumbing comes down from the display tank into the sump and their filter sock chamber sizes. The other option that I liked about Waterbox more than Red Sea is to have extra hookups off the return pipe to be able to install some kind of media reactor or any equipment that comes your way down the road that you wish you could implement, but then you have to replumb other things and it becomes a pain. So I decided to go with Waterbox. Hopefully it's a great tank. We'll find out when it gets here, but in the meantime, we got to work on where it's going, which is here in my downstairs living room. We wanted to make the room look more complete, and still just putting a regular aquarium up against the wall, even though it's huge and it's going to be awesome, is still going to look like an aquarium up against the wall. We played around with some different ideas, mostly do-it-yourself stuff, wallpaper, paneling, some kind of Art Deco design thingamajiggy. Then I was thinking if the wall just looks more complete, then maybe the whole room would be more complete. So I sat here in my room and I thought, there's nothing behind this wall. What if I put bookshelves and recess them into the wall? There's studs running every 16 inches in this wall, as you will find in most houses, which gives me about 14 inches, 14¼ inches between both sides of the inner sides of the studs. And on the other side is just a completely open storage room. So I have great access from both sides to see that I'm not gonna cut any wires. I'm not gonna be obstructed by any plumbing. I wouldn't recommend this if you didn't know what was on the other side of your wall, because you could just cut open and just find nothing but obstructions, and now you gotta do a lot of drywall work to fix it. There is some wiggle room. It's a 67-year-old house, so some of the studs aren't perfectly straight. I've measured in multiple spots, so I'm kind of underbuilding my shelves a little bit. They're gonna be around 14 inches wide. Let's go for it.
We're going to be making 2 different bookshelves. One is about 6 inches deep, and the other one's about 12 inches deep, and that's just because of air ducting that I have on one side that I can't get around. We're just going to be using wood that I got from Lowe's. It's pine wood, 1x6 by 8 foot and 1x12 by 8 foot. Here I'm just slicing off the bits of actual shelves I'm going to need.
I have this channel for the LED strips. Be perfect. Nice and smooth. That worked very well.
Once the pieces are all cut down, you gotta sand everything down so it's nice and smooth to accept a stain. Before you stain anything, you have to wipe off all the dust, and then we're applying a pre-stain so it accepts the stain more evenly. You don't have blotching. Now we're using the Golden Oak stain by Minwax. I'm using the polyacrylic stain instead of the polyurethane. And it's just because it seemed like it'd be a lower odor, easier to work with, easier to dispose of stain for this project. For the backs of the bookshelves, we're gonna do a pure black stain by Minwax to give a nice contrast. Then once we have everything stained and nicely finished, we're gonna drill pilot holes so that we can assemble the shelves together. I'm using corner clamps to hold the shelves in place while I drill the pilot holes, and then use wood screws and glue to put everything together. Now I'm putting on the other side of the shelf to fill out my whole box. Working on the deeper shelf, the 12-inch, same steps again. Cutting up my shelves that I'm going to use. Routing out the channel for the LEDs. Sanding everything down, making sure the shelves are square. Staining it all again. Cutting off the backs. Sanding the backs. Wiping them down. Pre-staining. And finally, staining them black. On the big shelf, I'm gonna assemble this a little faster using the same techniques, but I'm not gonna use wood glue because I don't see it's really gonna make that much of a difference. And I'm drilling the pilot holes and then screwing in the shelves in the same step instead of drilling pilot holes and then trying to match them up again. Also important to make sure your shelves are equal height and everything's sitting flush. And then you just nail on the backs.
Here we go, finished product. Looks pretty great. Now that the shelves are built, it's time for the moment of truth. We're gonna have to break through the wall to actually install them. I'm very nervous to actually do this because I don't want to break my house and have to hire someone to come fix it, but final no turn. Here we go. Oh, that didn't do nearly as much damage as I thought it was. This is gonna be a little bit harder. I don't think the cutting part's gonna work. There we go, that's better. Now I've got the hole open in the wall, I want to do the last step with the shelves while the axis is still easy, and that is putting in the LED strips. Now I just got to thread this through. In between each shelf, there'll just be one clean, long Phillips strip all the way up and down the same bookshelf. I've installed just a temporary 2x4 between the studs here, and it'll just give me a little ledge for the shelf to sit on while I'm putting it in place. So now that the shelf is loosely fit in there, I'm gonna use these shims to wedge in between the sides, between the shelf and the studs, because I built it a little bit shy on purpose, just so I could actually have some wiggle room to adjust for, you know, the house settling this way or that way over time. Time to secure it to the studs. I've got two different length screws that I'm gonna be using. I've got 2-inch screws and 3.5-inch screws. I've got different lengths because after all this work, I don't want to then accidentally drill all the way through the brand new shelves and have exposed screws. So I'm a little shy with 2 inches, and it's basically going to connect into the shelf, you know, 3/8 of an inch, which is half the width of the exterior paneling. However, I don't think that's gonna be strong enough to rely on. So in the tops and the bottoms where I'm not worried about extruding through the panel all the way, because I've got the cross shelf at the top and at the bottom, I'm gonna use these 3.5-inch screws, and that way I can make sure I'm really getting in there. All these screws are weighted to hold 80 pounds each. I'm probably gonna use a dozen-ish, so I'm not worried about weight capacity, but I wanna make sure I'm really getting a good hold. I'm gonna drill some pilot holes first, and then I'm just gonna screw these in. Not a great spot for the camera back here, sorry everybody. It's fully in there. I used about a dozen screws, a lot more of the 3.5-inch ones than I thought, but this thing is rock solid. It is not budging. It might as well be a stud itself. All that's left to do, snap off the shims, and then I'm gonna measure my framing. This is just a sample. See how much I need, cut them up, sand them, stain them, all that crap, and then I can nail these into place. They're just gonna sit basically like this. So I'm gonna cover up a lot of the cracking. There are some places where I'm gonna have to do some spackling before I repaint, but all in all, very easy to touch up around this kind of a job. The other shelf's ready to go. It's already got the lights run through it. Fully assembled, time to break open that part of the wall. It's a lot cleaner around the edge this time versus this one. And this time I left the tape on the wall. The rough taping that I did was more in line with the studs. And so I think that kept the paint and the drywall a little bit more intact. I do have this stuff here that I need to be a little bit more aware of. Something that's dangerous, it's internet cables and the air duct. So the depth of this shelf is 11 inches, 5/8. It's gonna stick out from the wall 1.5 inches to match what the other one is. That means I just need to have clearance of a little over 10 inches between the front of the stud.
And just keep doing that.
Both shelves are now totally in, secured. They will not budge at all, which is great and really necessary. And the lights look great. This is turning into a terrific project. Now I just gotta clean up. So now the shelves are totally installed, I've cut, sanded, stained the trim pieces. These are just 1x2s, the same wood quality, and I think they're gonna cover the cracks very nicely. I'm just gonna use some wood glue in between the trim pieces and the shelf itself, wood on wood. And then I have these finishing nails that I'm gonna use to drive through the trim into the studs that are all around. I'm also gonna be using this nail punch to do the final last couple of knocks on the nails to make sure it's completely recessed into the wood without actually leaving any hammer imprints on the exterior of the bookshelf or the trim. So the trim pieces, at least the long pieces, I guess warped either before I got them or after. I don't have a planer, so I just kind of have to make do. The good thing is that because the pieces are so thin, they're still flexible. So I'm able to bend them. I'm using these clamps to make sure that they are completely flush with the shelf before I actually start nailing them in. Now the trim's all done. The only step left is just to fill the nail holes with some wood filler and enjoy.
Thanks for tuning in for this episode of Fear the Reefer. If you enjoyed it, please hit the like button, and to follow the whole build of my 220-gallon reef tank, or to see more videos like this, be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell.